When Mike Johnson sold out the Republican base and even beyond the Republican base, Mike Johnson really sold out the majority of the Republican caucus in the House by partnering with Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats to pass essentially 3 separate World War III bills plus the TikTok ban. They passed funding for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, and then the cherry on top, TikTok ban. So just a really dystopian weekend, courtesy of the Speaker of the House, who is now being targeted by a potential motion to vacate by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the like. And we wondered last time on the show, we really didn't know which way this was going to go. We're like, well, if they make a motion to vacate, will the Democrats have Mike Johnson's back? Because conventional wisdom says, no, they wouldn't. It's an election year. If the Republicans are in chaos, you want to keep them in chaos. That only benefits your party. Then again, we saw such bipartisan kumbaya over the weekend, right? Just a beautiful energy on the House floor. Nancy Pelosi, I want to thank Mike Johnson. I love Mike Johnson. And thank you, Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries, for getting this done. It could be that the war drive transcends all of that partisanship, and maybe they will back him. So we were kind of divided. We were like, this could go either way. Well, Khanna gave us some insight into how it's going to go. He's asked point blank on one of the Sunday shows here, what are you going to do if the Republican hardliners come for Mike Johnson? And here's his answer.
Khanna, does Speaker Johnson deserve credit for how this played out?
He does. Look, we came into Congress together. And he always cared about civility. He actually led the civility pledge.
Right. Yeah.
And we had one issue, which was give individual votes. Don't lump things together. And I give him credit for doing this. I would actually vote to table any motion to vacate him. Chairman McCall quoted Churchill. One of the things Churchill said is that America always exhausted every wrong option until doing the right thing. Yeah. And this shows that American democracy still is very strong.
Okay, you just said something significant. You said you would oppose the motion
that's one of those cliche quotes they like to trot out.
Yeah.
There are certain just absolutely cliche anecdotes that all the politicians and all the pundits love. They all love that one. They all love that one. They all love to talk about Tip O'Neill having a drink with Reagan at the end of the day. That's one of their favorite touchstones.
He is such a sleazebag, though. I mean, he really is. Like, if anything, this demonstrates that American democracy doesn't work. Like, I can't think of a better example of how to prove that American democracy is broken than to point to the fact that for the first time in 20 years, Democrats and Republicans are hugging and kissing on the House floor because they passed funding bills for 3 wars that most Americans don't want. Like, that's an indictment of the
flags
system.
Of a foreign nation.
Yeah, exactly.
As they did it.
And on top, waving the flags of a foreign nation. This is democracy working? Finally, I mean, you have these two parties have really been at each other's throats since Obama. That's when there was really that post 9/11 bipartisan consensus really split. You haven't had this kind of nice energy in government in almost 20 years. And they came together to pass funding for 3 wars that no one wants. This is an example of democracy working. It's the exact opposite. The exact opposite.
Well, for them, it is very much an example of democracy working because they don't actually believe in democracy. They believe in oligarchy.
Right.
And they are servants of the oligarchs in good standing, and they want to keep it that way. Part of that exuberance that we saw in Nancy Pelosi's crazy vote for this or Ukrainians are going to get raped speech on the floor.
Yeah.
Part of that exuberance is driven by the realization of fact-based or not, hey, we establishment types can beat the MAGA insurgents.
Exactly.
We can actually outvote them. We can actually crush them. You know what? They can't actually thwart the will of our masters. That's the exuberance.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Is by doing this, they prove to themselves and they prove to their colleagues on the other side that as long as we have each other's backs at the end of the day, even a force the vote type effort can't really topple us. It can injure us.
Right.
It can slow us down, but it can't stop us, because at the end of the day, the Uniparty still has the overwhelming majority of seats in the House fall under this red-blue duopoly. We are under the supervision of the permanent state. And if we just come together and trust each other in a moment of crisis, we can jump over any insurgent movement on the left or the right. And they are very happy about that. Now, what's very sleazy about this kind of talk coming from Khanna is he poses as one of these insurgents, right? He likes to talk to the progressive movement like, hey, I'm here to shake things up. I'm here to bring the ruckus, right? And here he is saying the exact opposite. And he also sneaks in. Go ahead.
Politicians like him are there for the Elizabeth Warren types to convince themselves that they're leftists.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You see, I'm not for Biden. I wanted Elizabeth Warren, but hey, the system is messy. And there's another one. The arc of the universe bends towards justice. They fucking love to trot that one out too. There are just all of these cliched platitudes that if you have the fortitude that I do not to watch these shows on the regular, you're going to hear those same cliches over and over and over again. And if you make a habit of watching it, it'll just turn you into a political zombie. You're just going to be a zombie. The incremental change.
Yeah, exactly. But the most important part of this is yet to come, and the interviewer caught what Khanna said and asked him to confirm, and he does.
Option until doing the right thing. Yeah. And this shows that American democracy still is very strong.
Okay, you just said something significant. You said you would oppose the motion to vacate. In other words, you will protect Speaker Johnson's job if Marjorie Taylor Greene and the others go through with their threat to try to remove him.
I would, through the end of the term. I expect Speaker Jeffries will be there in 2025. But look, and I'm a progressive Democrat, and I think you would have a few progressive Democrats doing that. And I disagree
mean, he is, though. He is. He is. He's a progressive Democrat.
You know what he is?
Fucking scumbag douchebag. That doesn't mean what he thinks it means. Right. Or that doesn't mean what he wants you to think it means.
Yeah.
Speaker Johnson on many issues. 2025. But look, and I'm a progressive Democrat, and I think you would have a few progressive Democrats doing that. And I disagree with Speaker Johnson on many issues and have been very critical of him, but he did the right thing here, and he deserves to keep his job till the end of this term.
I mean, the brazenness to just admit on a mainstream Sunday morning TV show that, yeah, I call myself a progressive. I'm willing to defend the job of my ideological opposite. I mean, the Christian right that Johnson represents is basically the ideological opposite of like the Silicon Valley progressive liberal that Khanna is, right? Yet I'm willing to protect him from a motion to vacate because he gave us the wars that we wanted. He's just saying it out in the open. Yeah, I disagree with him on a lot of things, but he gave us the wars we wanted, so we're going to have his back when it counts. That's what he just said. So the answer is apparently, I mean, look, if Khanna is saying that, you know Nancy Pelosi is saying that. You know Hakeem Jeffries is saying that. Like,
of course.
If he's out there on the leftward flank of the party, if you will, willing to say that, you know there are a couple hundred more centrist-aligned Democrats who are going to do that as well, which means it looks like Johnson's job is safe for the next, whatever it is, 8 months, courtesy of the Democrats, not the Republicans, of the Democrats. Mike Johnson is doing the Democrats' bidding in the House.
You're going to get your mind right. And I mean right.
They are able to use Mike Johnson now as they want. They can embrace him when they need to. They can distance himself when they feel they need to. Mike, the glory hole of the House, Johnson, that's what he is. You know, you stick yourself in him when you need him, and then you zip up and walk away when you don't want him. And then you can go back anytime you want.
And that is how he is going to be known on this show forever going forward from here.
The glory hole of the House. Yes.
Mike, the glory hole of the House Johnson.
No, well, he's made himself that because now the Democrats can use him when they want and they can trash him when they want. It's the best of both worlds. They'd rather have him than their own speaker because their own speaker is going to take a lot of incoming, right, from the opposing party. Now they have a Republican who they trust at the end of the day will side with them on the most important issues of the day, which is blowing other countries up.
Right.
And they get to trash him for all of the cultural shit that they don't like.
Right. And he didn't even bring up immigration for a vote. The thing that his party most wanted to use as leverage, he didn't even do that. Now, the most bizarre part of this spectacle, although not so bizarre for anyone who has sat through the rehabilitation of George Bush, Liz Cheney, and to some extent even Dick Cheney, even the Dark Lord himself, has been somewhat rehabilitated by the media. You already had the headline. I'm not sure which of the goons it was, WAPO or the New York Times, that headlined Mike Johnson becomes an unlikely Churchill. They're going to rehabilitate Mike Johnson. All your lib relatives in about 5 seconds are going to start singing the praises of Mike Johnson. It's going to become, I don't agree with everything that he says, but I don't have to. That's how the system works, and he's reasonable. You can work with him. Just like they'll say that about George Bush now. They'll say he was a reasonable Republican that you could have honest disagreements with. Mike fucking Johnson, this guy in some kind of covenant marriage. This guy is not a bridge too far for them. But you're talking about people for whom genocide is not a bridge too far. Because if you bring up Joe Biden and genocide, even if they don't deny the genocide, which increasingly they don't, but Trump. They'll fall back on but Trump. So genocide is not a red line for you. You don't have one. You literally do not have one.
It's the opposite of not being a red line. They like Mike Johnson because he gave them the war money. Mike Johnson didn't cut a deal with Mike Johnson for paid family leave. They didn't cut a deal with Mike Johnson for universal pre-K. They cut a deal with Mike Johnson to get more Ukrainians killed and more Gazans killed. And then maybe all of us killed if the China thing blows up. Like, that's what they partnered with him on. That's why they love Mike Johnson. That's why they can say, Mike Johnson's a reasonable guy I admire. That's why Ro Khanna is out there praising him. Not because he gave them a social program that would actually help people, because he gave them more.
Yeah, well, their voters don't think about it that way. They think the way they're told to think about it, that bipartisanship is a good unto itself. It doesn't matter what they're agreeing on. This is a result of decades of the media covering politics as horse race and horse trading and deal making, and in the end, the religious precept, there always has to be some justification. The arc of the universe bends towards justice. That's very important, right? Yes, it's the process of democracy is messy, and when you see how the sausage is made, it's disgusting, but the arc of the universe bends towards justice, and you have to be grown-ups, and the adults are back in the room, and they don't look at what they are agreeing on. Didn't George Carlin do a whole bit on that, about how, the things that they agree on are the
something
worst
to the
things?
effect of when Democrats and Republicans start working together, get ready. You're about to get fucked. Yeah.
Exactly. But they have been brainwashed and trained and programmed to see bipartisanship as evidence of the glories of our democratic system at work.
Please clap.